Now, Arise News has been recognized on the continental stage, winning the inaugural Outstanding News Report Award at the African Media Awards in Ethiopia. Our correspondent, Ovietemi George, received the top prize following a rigorous selection by a distinguished Pan-African jury celebrating excellence, dedication, and impactful journalism. The award underscores Arise News' commitment to delivering trusted, high-quality reporting across Africa and around the world.
And the winner is Ovietemi George of Arise News. I want to say thank you for this. God bless you.
Indeed, Your Excellencies, we are most honored from Arise News Channel from Nigeria to receive this award today. The winner of this award embodies excellence, courage, and professionalism, which clearly define Arise as global standout news channel.
Congratulations, Ovietemi George. Beautiful. We love his reporting here. We're always commenting about how
I would say
congratulations it is.
To Arise News, though you know Ovietemi George has been consistent with his intimate style of reporting. It goes to the very heart of the story to get to the bottom of the story and ultimately to get the truth and the facts from that story. And also, more importantly, the insistence of Arise standard. Arise has totally reshaping the landscape in the media landscape in Africa, and it's telling the story, owning the story, and propagating the African story. I say congratulations to Arise News and Ovietemi George.
Yeah, definitely. Ovietemi has been, to use your word, consistent. We enjoy his reports every day here. He's one of our most resourceful correspondents that, you know, in the States. And so he deserves this award. And the Arise deserves this award as well. He unfortunately was unable to be there, but his wife, you know, represented him. And then we also have our own Christopher Isuguzo and Ohi Baba.
That's the Deputy Director News Lagos.
Yes, there to accept these awards on behalf of Arise. And yes, Arise continues to be committed to the higher standards in news production and journalism.
Absolutely.
Yes, yes, definitely.
Once again, congratulations to you, Ovietemi George. Now it's time for a review of what's making the headlines in the papers this morning. Dr. Constance, please take it away.
Yes, good morning once again, and we'll be taking those stories that are shaping the agenda for you today. Let's kick off with this day newspaper. The big lead in several papers today is that General Christopher Musa has been sworn in as the Minister of Defense, and is making promises by taking a tougher stance or posture against kidnappings, banditry, and insurgency. So this day has gone with that piece on General Musa, adding that there is renewed hope in the country's national security, followed by a special report on the 5 men shaping President Tinubu's defense, intelligence, and policing strategy. We'll discuss that more later. On the window, Tinubu, Boris Johnson, Kim Moon were in attendance at the Imo Economic Summit, with the state trying to unlock its economic potential. Vanguard quotes General Musa as saying Nigeria will defeat terror and restore order and peace. Also, Appeal Court has affirmed judgment banning VIO from seizing vehicles and imposing fines. At the Imo Economic Summit, President Tinubu describes Ndibo as the most significant stakeholders in the Nigerian project. And banks' insurance contribution to the economy falls 15% to 1.5 trillion naira. Leadership reports moves by the federal government to refill key ambassador nominee slots, appointing Ibas, Dambazao, and others, making it 65 nominees so far. While Arewa Forum and oil workers demand the exposure and prosecution of terror sponsors. Delhi Independent front page warns that telecom companies are being called out over persistent poor quality of service, even though they raise tariffs. This spotlights consumer frustration and regulatory pressure. The African Democratic Congress, also here in this paper, accuses the president of starting the 2027 campaign while citizens languish in what it calls captivity. Along that line, Mr. Peter Obi slammed the president for campaign vehicles, saying it is profoundly insensitive. In New Telegraph this morning, Constitution Amendment debate stalls as reps protest unavailability of document. Then Moody's sees Nigeria's fiscal deficit widening to 2.7%. The federal government begins 185 billion naira gas legacy debt repayment. And finally here, AFDB approves $200 million for Nigeria's special agro-industrial zones. Let's move on to Daily Sun. Daily Sun has gone with Mr. Peter Obi declaring that the African Democratic Congress is yet to settle zoning issue ahead of the 2027 election. The paper reflects further on security, reporting that President Tinubu is under pressure to scrap Minister of State for Defense office. That's a big one. And Museum of West African Art, Edo threatens arrest warrant on Obaseki and others. Such a shame what's happening with that museum, which is supposed to be historic. And finally, in Daily Sun, Minister Umahi tells contractors that payment is coming before December 20. So he's essentially telling them to stop the protests. Overall today in Nigerian newspapers, the government appears to be doubling down on security. Economic and monetary policy is also shifting. CBN's cash policy change may reflect recognition of challenges from previous cash restrictions and could influence liquidity and banking behavior. There's growing pressure on service providers, that's telecoms, and a rising public demand for accountability in both services and governance. Combined, the mix of security, economic issues, governance, and everyday services issues suggests a recalibration in Nigeria's policy and governance landscape. Let's see what the international papers are telling us today. The Times newspaper leads with a report that the United Kingdom is preparing to hand over $8 billion, pounds rather, in frozen Russian assets to Ukraine. Daily Mirror has gone with an inquiry that found President Vladimir Putin, quote, morally responsible for the 2018 death of Russian double agent. She was poisoned by a nerve agent, and this has prompted fresh condemnation. In Daily Mail, leader of Reform UK, Nigel Farage, has publicly challenged BBC, accusing it of bias after its coverage of alleged racist remarks from his school years. He has now threatened to boycott unless it apologizes. Daily Telegraph reports that there is a split between David Lammy, who is the Deputy Prime Minister, and Prime Minister Keir Starmer over rejoining EU customs. While Lammy says it could boost growth, Starmer has ruled it out. So that's the crisis from UK leaving the European Union. Financial Times is gone with a smiling photo of Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Russian President Putin, saying both countries have renewed their ties. Putin was visiting India for defense and trade talks. In The Guardian, Eurovision is reeling from division as it clears Israel to compete in the contest. Ireland, Spain, Slovenia, and Netherlands say they will boycott this year's song contest to protest Israeli war in Gaza. And finally, iNewspaper, Cabinet Minister lashes out at those calling Labour Party the party of welfare. Globally, the Russia-Ukraine conflict and its fallout remain central, both in terms of sanctions and reparations. Domestic UK policies is experiencing turbulence, while in Washington, D.C., presidents of Rwanda and DRC signed a historic peace deal brokered by President Donald Trump yesterday. Now, let's break down what this means for everyday people. Let's return to this day newspaper. General Musa sworn in is making promises, and he will do whatever it takes to secure Nigeria. Plus, the 5 men shaping the president's security architecture. We have them: National Security Advisor, Inspector General of Police, Director General of the State Department Services, National Intelligence Agency DG, and yes, that's 5 men, Benga.
Okay, it's good, and I'm so impressed that this day has highlighted the 5 pillars, the cornerstones of Nigeria's security and defense architecture. It emphasizes one thing, and it also underscores the need for interagency cooperation. Someone raised it at the Senate 2 days ago when they were screening the ex-Chief of Defense, who is now the substantive Minister of Defense, having taken his oath of office, that you can't fight a lion with a bare hand. You need support. So the president needs to back him up with to give him a strong political backing, and likewise other interrelated agencies, security and defense architecture. He has promised Nigerians that he would fight insurgency and deliver Nigeria as a safe country where people could return to their normal business activities, where farmers in the north could return to their farming and boost production. And that takes us back to the constitution of the land. Section 38 states that the citizen has the right to the freedom of thought, religion, and conscience. And he has the right, the second part of the law says that he has the right to demonstrate his religious belief, either privately or publicly. So there should be no restriction of religion, of thought, or belief, or even their business activities. And it has put the country under siege. So there is a need for that synergy between the Inspector General of Police, the Defense Intelligence Agency, the National Intelligence Agency, the Department of State Security Service, for them to achieve this synergy, and also all the remaining service chiefs, the Chief of Army Staff, the Chief of Naval Staff, the Chief of Air Staff, all of them needs that cooperation. And he, now standing as the Minister of Defense, has to provide that platform that will harmonize all these agencies together to deliver Nigeria as a safe and free country.
Right, he's reiterating zero tolerance to the way that we do things today.
Shoot on sight, he said.
Yes, you know, he's raising expectations.
Yeah,
obviously,
there's
making
a new sheriff
really,
in town.
really solid promises, and you know, his operational experience hopefully will help him to turn around what is going to happen, you know, in terms of policy level reforms, and we hope that he's capable of delivering the tangible improvements that Nigerians are expecting. Let's go to our second paper, as you know, we're pressed for time now. Leadership newspaper talking about 32 more ambassadorial nominees. Vice Admiral Iboke Bass, Sulu Gambari, Eta Inan, Dambazao, others, bringing that number to 65 now. Yolanda, do you want to take on that?
Yes, actually, and I want to begin with a question. I mean, I stand to be corrected. I was looking at the list that this day actually published, the full names of the ambassadorial nominees, and from Yobe State, there was one Adamu Garba Talba. And when I Googled this and did a quick search, I noticed there was a Wikipedia page that actually states that he died. He died in July of 2025. So I stand to be corrected if that is correct information, or if there was some sort of an error. Who is in charge of cross-checking these type of details? Did anybody else catch that?
Well, you know, apart from that, let's go to the broader issue here, which is that Nigeria has more than 100 diplomatic missions across the world. And over the years, one of the biggest challenges of these missions has been not only the missions, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs has primarily been economic. So the country could not and continues to struggle with adequately funding such a large network of missions across the world. There had always been you know, widespread financial distress, operational inefficiencies, and sometimes national embarrassment. So there have been issues of this underfunding and unpaid salaries and allowances, mounting debt all across, and infrastructure decay as well, because I remember that when I used to be a reporter in Washington, D.C., we covered those same stories. I don't think it has changed at all. So proponents argue at that time that streamlining the number of missions we have across the the world will allow us to only keep the ones that are strategically important to Nigeria's foreign affairs missions and goals, so that they are adequately run and efficiently run as well. So this begs the question, what are we going to do now? Are we going to appoint more than 100 ambassadors again? Will the government allow Nigeria to maintain all of this, or should we prune them to make sure that there is credible, functional, and respected diplomatic presence in the countries that we need most? I think this is an important discussion at this point, that the president is nominating new ambassadors. The ball is definitely in his court.
Yeah, and I think in addition to that, the appointment of ambassadors is not a political IOU, and it's not for political patronage. The role of an ambassador is a very serious mission, and is a specialized mission, and it leaves me very disturbed when I see the preponderance of political ambassadors ahead of career ambassadors. And those that have been listed as career ambassadors are mostly from the National Intelligence Agency. I said this a while ago, and I want to broaden and talk more about the role of an ambassador. We have the citizens diplomacy, the economic diplomacy, which is very vital and fundamental, and we also have shuttle diplomacy that is being dispatched at times of emergency. So when you look at the specialized demands and exigencies that the role of an ambassador demands, it's a specialized trade, and it's a specialized profession, and there is a need for professionals to drive the strategic missions. So, and there is also the need for the multilateral diplomacy aspect of ambassadorial roles, and that is the United Nations, ECOWAS, AU, and also the so we have many of these multilateral diplomatic missions, and it's very, very demanding, and it's very exigent for a career ambassador to occupy many of these roles. So the president needs to look at, because you talked about 108 missions abroad.
Missions abroad,
yeah,
yes.
So in appointing more, the president needs to take cognizance of the need for professional diplomats to fill in these roles. So because political ambassadors, with due respect, that definitely the most democracy comes with its collateral cost, right, by virtue of the fact that these people have also invested in the political process. So many of us were never part of the political process, so you can't expect them to be sidelined. But the role of the ambassadors is not that role that you would need to fill up that political patronage.
Right. Wenga, just very quickly before we wrap up this particular topic, the problem is not that they're appointing non-career ambassadors. The most important thing is, who are you appointing? Because all across the world, you can appoint people that are not career ambassadors, but the character and integrity has to match the requirements of the job.
Yeah, because it's very synonymous with having an impeachable and impeccable character. That's what defines an ambassador. You are representing a whole country, and you are deemed to be seen as the head of state in that particular mission abroad.
Let's see Daily Independent. Telcos face scrutiny over poor services despite tariff hike and payment of 250 billion naira by banks for unstructured supplementary service data, USSD service. Recall that earlier this year, approval was given by the Nigerian Telecommunications Commission for a 50% hike in tariffs. Implementation of that began in February. Rather than improvement, services have gotten worse, this report says. Anyone wants to take on that? I mean,
okay.
Yes.
We all knew the turn of the year when the regulator, the telecom regulator, the Nigerian Communications Commission, introduced the 50% hike in tariff. Everyone was disturbed, but rather than getting the quality, now you could see poor quality voice calls, data usage. You want, even sometimes you'll be discussing with someone and you'll notice that the connection has disappeared, and you'll be wondering if the person on the other side was the one who cut off the line. So many of these things that does not show. I think there is a need for stronger regulatory oversight, and we'll be calling out the poster boy. You remember Bosun Tijani, the Minister of Communications and Digital Economy, when he started with this broadband revolution, we praised him, and he was seen as the poster boy of the administration. And we must also call out the Executive Vice Chairman of the Nigerian Communications Commission, Aminu Meida. So you guys need to really, we need your quick intervention on this to see to the quality service in terms of telecom usage.
Right, as you mentioned, there is a regulator, Nigerian Telecommunications Commission. What is it doing? Is a boycott necessary? Questions are there to be answered. Let's go to the international headlines. DRC and Rwanda sign historic peace deal. Presidents Paul Kagame of Rwanda and Felix Tshisekedi of Democratic Republic of Congo were in Washington, D.C. with Trump yesterday, who brokered the deal. What does this mean for the region? And now what, Yolanda?
Do you mean the region of Africa?
Yes.
Both.
For the region.
Well,
for the country and the region.
On the face of it, this treaty looks like something that is much needed. It's excellent for the U.S. to bring their foot forward in, resolving wars that they like to pride themselves in. But looking deeper at it, part of what Trump said was quite disturbing about how, deals were also being made on the sidelines for critical world minerals to be harvested, so to speak, by the United States in exchange for other things that were not clearly mentioned when he spoke. And one of the things that we know that DRC has is coltan, and coltan is it's a very important resource when it comes to making smartphones, when it comes to electric cars, and when it comes to AI, robotics and things like that. So this is also deeply concerning, because are we looking at another problem where Africa is not in charge of its resources? Is this peace treaty really a peace treaty, or is it just being put on the face to kind of mask what the real intention is?
First of all, it is remarkable that both presidents are on the same table, agreeing to a document. There have been past efforts to bring them to the table, and it came to nothing. This shows that it is probably only the U.S. that could bring them together. Paul Kagame, being the strong man that he is more inclined to defer to the U.S., and that is what we're seeing here. Both men seemed very uncomfortable sitting beside each other, and you could see the mutual distrust from both sides. So we will have to see whether this peace deal holds. And secondly, part of the aim of this deal, as you have mentioned, Yolanda, is to attract investments into the DRC and create a boom in the economy. Well, it's yet to be seen how this will materialize, because it may be tough to compel private companies to come in and invest in a conflict-ravaged region. It's not impossible, but it might take a while. You have to halt the killings, first of all.
Then that takes me to the third point.
That takes me to my third point, which is that this deal is seen as predatory, advancing foreign interests. The U.S. is seen as simply trying to access critical minerals, and even President Trump alluded to that yesterday when he said, everybody's going to be making a lot of money. That's what he said yesterday during his speech. So these are early days. We'll see how that deal pans out.
And you recall that some months ago, the president of DR Congo, Felix Tshisekedi, offered the U.S. military support in exchange for
But that's why they have the deal.
Resources.
He invited the U.S. To come and mediate in this conflict.
So when you look at the escalating tension at the North Kivu region, and the fact that this crisis has lasted for over 3 decades, and some of the fundamental issues of conflict, you wonder if this deal that it looks like it's serving more of the U.S. interest than the African interest, how it will be sustained. So that's a big problem for. We'll have to wait and see how this goes.
Well, those were your headlines today.